Benjamin Hart was a self-made tech millionaire who lived alone in a sleek Manhattan penthouse, surrounded by silence and success. His life was structured, predictable, and private. Every morning, he had breakfast at the same marble table, overlooking the city skyline, skimming emails and stock reports. His maid, Rosa, a quiet woman in her early 50s, came and went with little notice. She cleaned, cooked, and rarely spoke unless spoken to. One particular morning, something shifted. As Benjamin glanced up from his screen, he caught a fleeting moment. Rosa slipped something into her coat pocket while leaving the pantry. He blinked. That pantry stored his rare wines, imported chocolates, and gourmet foods. Suspicion crept in. Was she stealing? Benjamin wasn't a man to jump to conclusions, but the image replayed in his mind. Rosa had always seemed trustworthy, but what if he had been blind to the truth? Curiosity, or perhaps a deeper yearning for connection he didn't yet recognize, pushed him to do something completely out of character. He decided to follow her after her shift ended, keeping a low profile in a dark cap and coat. For the first time in years, the billionaire stepped out of his controlled world and into the unpredictable streets of New York, not as a mogul, but as an observer, driven not by anger, but by a strange sense of something missing. What he was about to discover would shake the very foundations of how he saw the world, and his own heart. Twilight settled over the Bronx as Benjamin trailed Rosa through unfamiliar streets, a far cry from his polished penthouse life. He kept a safe distance, watching as she turned down a cracked sidewalk and disappeared into an old building with flaking paint and a flickering light above the door. Curiosity tightening in his chest, he edged closer and peered through a dusty window. Inside, Rosa was bustling with quiet joy. Setting up folding tables, unpacking pots, and stirring a large pot on a rusted stove. Laughter echoed softly as a group of homeless teens trickled in, greeting her with hugs and high fives. Then he saw it. The rice from his pantry. The same brand of canned vegetables. All arranged neatly beside the stove. She hadn't stolen anything. She had borrowed food not for herself, but for them, for kids with hollow cheeks and worn shoes, who looked at Rosa like she was the safest place on earth. Benjamin's breath caught. In that moment, something inside him shifted. The woman he'd suspected of petty theft was quietly running a sanctuary, feeding the hungry with scraps from his wealth, week after week, without asking for thanks or help. He stepped back, overwhelmed, heart pounding, not with shame, but wonder. This woman, invisible in his own home, had a life so rich in humanity, it made his millions feel empty. He wasn't angry. He was humbled. Awed by a kind of wealth he had never known existed. Later that night, Benjamin quietly followed Rosa one last time, driven not by suspicion anymore, but by something deeper, an ache he couldn't name. He watched from across the street as she unlocked the door to a cramped, weather-worn apartment tucked between two aging buildings. Through the slightly open curtains, he glimpsed the truth of her life. The apartment was simple, 2 small beds in the same room, faded wallpaper, and a flickering lamp on a nightstand. A young boy sat in a wheelchair near the window, his head resting gently to one side. Rosa knelt beside him, tucking a blanket around his legs with the tenderness of someone who's done it 1,000 times. On a nearby shelf, framed photos told the rest of the story. A young woman, Rosa's daughter, smiling in graduation robes, then a hospital bed, then a memorial card. A quiet shrine, lit by a candle, sat beside the pictures. Benjamin's throat tightened. She had lost a daughter. Was raising her disabled grandson alone. Working 2 jobs. And somehow, still found the strength to feed strangers. He stood in the shadows, feeling the cold not from the air, but from the emptiness in his own soul. His wealth, his empire, his towering achievements, all felt small in that moment. As tears filled his eyes, he realized something profound. Rosa, who had so little, lived a life of overflowing richness. She hadn't just fed hungry children. She had opened a door he never knew was closed. A week later, the community center buzzed with its usual quiet energy, rusty doors creaked, the old heater hummed, and a few early teens loitered outside waiting for dinner. Rosa arrived, as she always did, carrying her modest bag of groceries. But as she stepped inside, she froze. The room was transformed. Brand new stainless steel kitchen appliances gleamed under fresh lighting. The shelves, once sparse, overflowed with food, fresh produce, dry goods, canned meals, enough to last for months. On the counter sat a sealed envelope. With trembling hands, Rosa opened it and pulled out a check. Her eyes widened. $250,000. Made out to Rosa's Kitchen. No sender's name. No message. Just those 3 words. She sank to her knees, the weight of disbelief and gratitude crashing over her. Tears streamed down her face as the children gathered around, their voices hushed. It wasn't just money. It was hope. It was acknowledgement. It was freedom. Outside, parked discreetly down the street, Benjamin watched from the driver's seat of his car. He didn't want recognition. He didn't need it. He just sat there, eyes glassy but smiling, a different kind of smile than before. One not born of achievement or status, but of connection, of humility, of having made a difference in someone's life. For the first time in years, Benjamin Hart didn't feel like a man with everything. He felt like a man with meaning. And that was worth more than all the zeros in his bank account. Weeks later, the once silent penthouse pulsed with life. Laughter echoed off marble floors, warm lights spilled from chandeliers, and voices, real, human, joyful, filled the space where silence used to live. Benjamin had opened his doors not for a gala, but for a cause. He had launched a foundation, Hearts First. Its mission? To support community kitchens, single caregivers, and forgotten neighborhoods, like the one Rosa had served quietly for years. Rosa now stood beside him, no longer just the maid, but the foundation's director of outreach, her name now on a plaque by the entrance. She wore the same gentle smile, but tonight, she stood taller. Seen. Honored. Before a small gathering of press and guests, Benjamin stepped up to the microphone. Gone was the guarded tech mogul. He looked softer, grounded. People once asked how I built a billion-dollar company, he began, pausing. But no one ever asked how to build a meaningful life. I thought Rosa took something from me. But I was wrong. She didn't take, she gave. She taught me how to give. A quiet beat. Then applause. Real, heartfelt applause. Rosa wiped away a tear, overwhelmed but proud. Benjamin glanced at her, and for the first time in decades, he felt no need to prove anything. As the night unfolded around them, full of warmth and purpose, Benjamin stood quietly in the middle of it all, not just a man of wealth, but finally, a man of worth.